I had a newspaper, and I talked about I take the newspaper and I start shredding the newspaper and talk about how there are things in our life that get torn apart, but no matter how bad it gets, no matter what, if you'll just keep moving forward, it can be put back together. And the newspaper that's shredded into pieces just looks like, and I know this is going to sound odd, but it is the truth. It's shredded like this, and it just looks like it falls back together and becomes one.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of American Snippets. I'm your co-host, Barb Allen. Very excited to be sitting down here today with Ken Hartley, who we got to meet back when we attended and spoke at the Greater event, Marie Cosgrove's event, who you may remember we featured Marie earlier on American Snippets. She has her own incredible story. So it makes sense she surrounds herself with incredible people like Ken Hartley. Ken is a majorly accomplished professional in fields that are majorly difficult to accomplish himself in. He is an inspirational speaker, a singer, an illusionist, an actor, an author. He is an associate pastor and an MC, as well as a certified human behavior consultant, on top of probably about 9 zillion other areas I did not mention because we'd be here all day, but maybe we'll get him to mention them here in a little bit. Ken has a story, his own story of overcoming challenges, as we all do, and his own unique take on how to do that. And he has some amazing fun along the way and impacts people in very powerful ways. As we know he's going to impact you too if you just sit back, take a listen, and dig in with us. Ken, thank you so much for being here today.
It is an honor to be here with you, Barb.
Yay. Dude, man, you are fun. You are fun. I have never really got to see an illusionist perform in person. And I had honestly no idea what we were about to see that night, went at the Greater event in Texas. And I know you only gave us a little taste there. So let's go first into that part. I think people are going to be like most intrigued about maybe is your career as an illusionist. Tell us what you do.
Well, I started when I was about 8 years old. My grandparents gave me a little magic set like for Christmas. And my grandmother loved card tricks. That was really her thing. And so every Christmas, it just became a thing where I would learn a card trick. And then when we would go to my grandmother's house for Christmas, I would show her a card trick. I didn't tell any of my friends I did this stuff because my goal in junior high school was to be below the radar. So I didn't have any really ambitions toward that until I was about 22 years old. And I realized the message possibilities of it, that doing the illusions actually opened doors for me to be able to give a message and give it in a creative way. So that's when I really started developing it. And through some incredible mentors that I had, I was able to develop the skill and use it in more large scale stage illusion type things. And it's been a fun journey.
Yeah. So talk about these stages that you're on now and how you use illusions in your message and in speaking.
Well, illusions they're multifaceted. They have a lot of different applications depending on what the illusion is. There's one, okay, I'll just use this just last week. Let's see, I was speaking in Georgia. That was Saturday, actually. And I had a newspaper. And I talked about, I take the newspaper and I start shredding the newspaper and talk about how there are things in our life that get torn apart. But no matter how bad it gets, no matter what, if you'll just keep moving forward, it can be put back together. And the newspaper that's shredded into pieces just looks like, and I know this is going to sound odd, but it is the truth. It's shredded like this, and it just looks like it falls back together and becomes one.
That's just wild how you do that. And I've seen some illusionists perform online or on TV, but I can't get it. And sometimes you all kind of creep me out a little. You creeped me out a little bit with that. I'm like, whoa, like what is but in a good way, in a good way.
Good. I'm glad you said that in a good way.
In a very good way. Not like a Freddy Krueger creep you out, but like, man, blows your mind, and yeah, you just have to kind of sit back and surrender to the experience. And if for someone who kind of got a little riled up and like not enjoy feeling like you had one, like you were deceived or taken over. If somebody's sensitive to that, it can kind of trigger you a little bit. But if you sit back and just like really understand and respect the craft and marvel at it, and then let that message come into you, it's very powerful.
Well, thank you. And that's really the goal of it is to inject a message, but do it in a way that they won't forget. You want them to retain what you're saying. That's, of course, the goal of every single speaker is for people to retain what they're telling them and let life change get inside them. And I think the illusions are a good venue, good avenue, I should say, for that. And that's one of the goals of all of it. Now, at the same time, you want them to have fun. And something you touched on right there, I want to say too, you talked about suspending reality. Yeah. And it was a 20th century philosopher. His name was Elbert Hubbard. I did not say L. Ron Hubbard. I said Elbert Hubbard. I want to clarify that very quickly.
Good distinction. Go ahead.
Yes. But Elbert Hubbard said, I love magicians because they're honest deceivers. They tell you they're going to fool you, and then they proceed to do it. But afterwards, you still have your watch, your wallet, and your appendix, which is more than I can say for some of my non-magician acquaintances. And that's what people want. They want to be fooled when they see that. But in real life, being fooled like that is not fun. Being deceived by somebody or stabbed in the back by somebody, it's not fun. And so that's really the core message in doing a lot of the illusions today is don't fall for the lie, embrace the truth. Even though most of the time, what makes a lie an incredible lie is that it looks so much like it's got to be the truth. And you don't really find out it's a lie until you start unpacking it and get in the inside and realize, oh, this is bad. I mean, it's almost like an apple that looks wonderful and delicious on the outside, and you take a bite and then the core's rotten. That's the way a lie is.
Yeah, very cool. And I love the, the ties you can do between the two, and you could just go deeper and deeper in comparing the illusion and the lessons behind it. I mean, what a brilliant approach. And not everybody could do that though. So you were 8 years old and you didn't know that you were going to get so into magic. Your grandparents just like on a whim got you this gift, like that you had expressed no interest in magic before or anything. And then it just kind of fell into your hands and you said,
no.
Hey.
Yeah, my father was a music professor at a university. And so I'd been singing since I was about 5 years old, just because he would put me out there. And so I was on stage and I'd done a little bit of stage acting, and my grandparents, I think, saw that and thought, well, let's just give him this and see what he does with it. And it was something just an immediate connection and an interest to. Magicians will say I was bitten by the bug immediately. Yeah. And in learning to do just the basic ones, I guess the fun part for me, I grew up in Jackson, Tennessee, and I didn't know of really any other magicians in the area at all. If there was a magic club or something like that, I didn't know about it. So all of the illusions that I did and the magic I did was stuff that I taught myself, or my older sister would get the instructions, and if it's something I didn't understand, she would read it to me and help me learn it. And she would show me, this is kind of what it says. But I found out the strength in doing the illusions was not just in the secret, which is where most people go, because that's the knee-jerk reaction of everybody. You do something, they go, how'd you do that?
How'd you do that? Yeah.
Everybody wants to know that, but that's really the least important question of all, because how you do it, I could explain to you in 10 seconds how David Copperfield made the Statue of Liberty disappear. Yeah. That doesn't mean somebody can do it.
Right.
David Copperfield, I personally think, is one of the greatest magicians that's ever been. And he is a presentation to it. There is a theatrical element. That's what makes the real magic, because true illusion does not happen on a stage. True illusion happens in a person's mind. It's what they perceive happened. I've had people come up to me and describe an illusion I did and go, hey, you did this and you did this. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow.
That's not what I did.
You think I'm way better than I really am. In their mind, that's what happened. And so that's how they perceive it. So in doing this, going back to it, I just learned how to do these bit by bit, but then not growing up around others, I didn't have anything to gauge off of or compare myself to or to copy. And I learned later on in life, that was a really good thing.
Yes.
Because I would have been a really bad imitation of other people. And instead, I kind of got my own performing style. And I'm proud of that today. I'm glad I don't look like other people.
Yeah. So you mentioned in one clip that I saw of you online, and then you just said it here again, which is where I wanted to go, is that you didn't tell anybody you did magic because your goal was to fly under the radar. I am somebody who relates very deeply to that the mantra and that self-preservation technique. That's what it was for me, self-preservation technique. But are you open to talking a little bit about that? Because I think that's something that's going to resonate with a lot of people as well.
Absolutely.
Why did you want to stay under the radar?
Uh, you know, because I was, I just gut level. I mean, I was such a little goofball, and you get made fun of a lot, and that's those things. Some of those things stay with you, and they. The words, sticks and stones may break my bones, names never hurt me. Not true. Those things stay with you, and what they do is, they're just words. Yeah, I know, but those words lead to beliefs. And those beliefs are eventually going to lead you to your actions and to self-defeating and self-limiting behavior if you internalize those things. And so you have to take the words that people put on you and decide, is that true or is it not? And so, again, it all somehow comes back to these illusions. But in middle school, high school, I just tried to stay below that. It wasn't until my junior year in high school when I became the drum major of the band. And before then, hardly anybody knew who I was.
Yeah.
Just this nerdy little kid over there, and then became the drum major, and the band was really good. And we did competitions, statewide, nationwide competitions. We competed against bands from all over the country, and I ended up winning an award as a drum major for the Southeast. And so then all of a sudden, yeah, it was. Then all of a sudden there was attention that was there. But it wasn't until I was out of college that I actually performed illusions publicly. I didn't do it. As a matter of fact, my high school reunion, they had me come back for my 10-year reunion, and they said, "Hey, we heard that you actually do some of this stuff. Would you be willing to do it at the reunion?" And I said, yeah, I'll show up. And people were just going, "Oh my gosh, we had no idea." And I said, "I know, I didn't want you to know."
And there's something even a little powerful in that, right? Like knowing you have that secret and knowing you're underestimated sometimes or overlooked a little bit. And when I said I relate to it, I was one of those kids from sixth grade to eighth grade, like literally immersed, not even just bullied is too light a word for it. Like literally just harassed, the point of like being suicidal and all of that. So, I understand that the need to fly below the radar and just kind of not be noticed, and you're not there. And that's something that still will kind of surface in me today. I kind of try to which is crazy that I will go on a stage, but that's like the challenge. Like, can you do it? Right. But
speakers say that same thing though. There are a ton of speakers that they're on stage right now that never had a desire, never wanted to be up there. And they get up there and people go, "Oh my gosh, my youngest son is as shy a kid as you'll ever meet."
Yeah.
When you talk to him, he'll look down and he'll go, "Uh-huh. Yeah. But you put him on a stage and give him a part, he's an actor like you wouldn't believe." And people see that role on stage and go, "Oh my gosh, he's incredible." And they want to carry on this conversation with him afterwards. And after he's gone, boom, on the stage, dance, sing, and all that, they walk up and he goes, "Thank you." So I get that.
Okay, I'm out.
Yeah. Exactly. That was a character. This is me.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's cool to be able to channel into that kind of energy and tap into that flow and do that in spite of maybe it not being like your first instinct to do that. So what about like kids today? And this is something I remember giving my kids a magic kit, even just so now my oldest is going to be 21. So it wasn't that too long ago when he was that 8-year-old kid or whatever. It seems like it, right? But even then, even those years ago, you give them a magic kit and they're like, oh, it's different today, right? Am I giving an 8-year-old kid a magic kit today versus giving an 8-year-old kid a magic kit when you were 8 years old? Do you think like there's a lot competing, or do you think that maybe people who would love it are overlooking, or am I just like full of nonsense right now?
No, not at all. No, the whole timbre of magic has really changed in the last 15, 20 years. Before, there was, years ago, there was Harry Blackstone, and that was the bow tie, tux. And people perceive magicians as this, that's how they looked with, the top hat, pull the rabbit out of the hat, the whole thing. It was very stereotypical. And then back in the 70s, a guy came along, Doug Henning, who was this hippie guy who was doing magic, peace, love, and doing incredible magic tricks. And then David Copperfield came along in the 80s and all of a sudden was this, on stage, he was incredibly cool.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny because you go back and look at the 80s stuff now and it doesn't look cool at all. But back in the 80s, it was really cool.
Yeah.
And that gave birth to guys like David Blaine, Chris Angel,
right.
All these guys who have come up, and now there's this whole cool aspect of magician that wasn't there previously. So I think it's a lot of why I stay below the radar, because doing magic now, it's a little more cool than it was when I was growing up.
True.
And so if I look at some of those guys right now that are doing it, I look at a kid, and if the kid gets a little magic set that has some dumb tricks in it, I wouldn't want to do them either. But a lot of guys are developing new and improved magic kits that have some stuff in there they're really good tricks. But again, it's not just in the secret, it's in the presentation of how you do it. There's nothing better than a magic thing that fools somebody and gets in their head. There's nothing worse than a magic trick that people go, "Oh, I saw that. I know how to do it." That's the worst.
That's like telling a joke on stage and nobody laughs, and you're like, "Oh man." Yes.
And you just sit there.
Yeah. Giving a talk, no one claps. All right, then I'm out. What was your first performance? How did you get it? How did it go?
My first performance was at a church for a Sunday school class. And it was about 15 people. And I worked on that. To give you an idea of the personality too, I worked on that one show. It was a 30-minute show. And I practiced for a month for an hour a day to put that 30-minute show together. And I still messed up one thing. When I did it, thankfully, nobody knew it. And I was able to cover it and go right on. But that was a moment when you do something, and honestly, for a magician, sometimes you do a trick and you get the secret of this and you're going to go, "That's so stupid. That's not going to fool anybody. No one's going to fool for that." But then when you actually do it and you go, "Wow, there's something really significant here. This is something huge. This has value. This has entertainment value, but it also has message value." When you realize that, you go, "I need to put the correct work into this." And that was the other thing from the standpoint of, I'm a person of faith. And from the standpoint of, I'd seen a lot of people who were labeled Christian magicians that were just lousy. I mean, they're just not good. And I said, I don't want to be one of those. So that's why I sought mentorship. And that's such a power in finding the right mentors.
Yes.
The guy that taught me stage illusion is the same guy that came up with the idea of the Statue of Liberty disappearing for David Copperfield.
Really?
Same guy.
Let's stop there for a second. A, how did you identify that person? And then B, how did you go from identifying that person, saying, "Wow," and getting him to mentor you?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think if you want it bad enough, you're gonna look into it. But there are also moments where life will intersect what you're wanting, and you have to be consciously looking for those moments. There is a certain level of awareness that you have to have that realize, wait a minute, there's two things going on here and they're intersecting right now. And if I don't take advantage of this, that moment may never cross me again. So there was a guy coming through town. His name was Andre Cole. Andre, and it's Cole is spelled with a K. And I'd never heard of him. And he was a magician with Campus Crusade for Christ, which is an organization. And he was coming to town, and I thought, well, he's a magician. I'll go see him. And I went to this show, this Illusionist, and I mean, he blew my mind there. And I had a decent knowledge of how things worked, and he just absolutely destroyed me in the audience. I had no clue how he was doing stuff. Well, then right before the last illusion he's about to do, he goes, "Let's watch this quick video." And it's David Copperfield on the video. And he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Copperfield. You're about to see the greatest stage illusion you've ever seen in your life from my friend Andre Cole." And I went, this guy knows David Copperfield.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching it, and he had this huge Statue of Liberty on the stage. It was like made out of marble, weighed, I don't know, 600 or 700 pounds. And he put this curtain around it. And then he started raising the curtain up from the bottom. And that thing was disappearing from the bottom up. The Statue of Liberty is still right here. And it just went boop. And then the last second, he took the curtain up this way and went and dropped it, and it was gone. It was one of the greatest stage illusions and still to this day, one of the greatest I've ever seen. And so after it was over, I walked up to him and I said, "Hi, Ken, I know you don't know me, but I would like to just have 15 minutes of your time. I will fly to wherever you are. I'll pay for it. I will pay you for your time." I didn't ask for something for free.
Yeah.
And said, "If you will just sit down and just teach me a few things. And the reason I'm wanting to do this is because of this." He looked at me and said, "Will you do A and B?" And I said, "Yes, I will." And before I ever talked to him again, I accomplished A and B because I wanted him to know I was serious about it. And then after that, he began to teach me. And that door through him opened up doors to meet other very significant magicians. The guy that taught me close-up was a 3-time world champion in close-up magic. And today he's considered the greatest teacher of magic that's out there anywhere. His name's Michael Amar. And Michael Amar is phenomenal. But found out that I love to go to Disney, and he lived in Orlando. And I went, well, I'm there anyway. And so I just made contact with him and said, "Hey, same exact speech. I'd love to learn. I'll pay you for your time. Will you be willing to teach me?" And graciously, he was. And so that's how it happened.
Yeah, that's such an important lesson. So I got to ask, are you able to say what was A and B that you had to do?
Well, it was different. It was different for them. With Michael, I had to learn. There's an effect that I do. The effect is over 3,000 years old. It dates back to ancient Egypt. And it is called the cups and balls. It's where, and a lot of people have seen this, where there are these cups there and the balls are underneath the cups and they disappear and reappear, all that kind of thing. And it was Houdini, who's still arguably the most famous magician ever, Harry Houdini. I mean, he's been dead over 100 years and people still talk about it.
Everybody knows his name, yeah.
Yeah. Or not over 100 years, almost. But anyway, Houdini said, he was asked, is there anything for the magician that would be similar to what scales are for the musician? And scales are fundamental for anybody doing music. And Houdini said, yes, the cups and balls. And he said, I consider no man to be a magician until he can adequately perform this effect. And so I decided I wanted to learn that. And so Michael gave me 2 or 3 different, they're called sleight of hand moves, which sleight of hand, the hand is quicker than the eye, is not quite an accurate description, but it is what magicians use to describe it. But he gave me 2 particular moves that he wanted me to learn that I did do and that I showed to him. And then after that, he gave me here's the effect. And then it was 7 months of rehearsal, learning that effect. And then I went back and showed him. And when I showed him, there was one part that I had learned completely wrong. I mean, it was bad. And he looked at it. It was funny. He's looking at it like, what was that right there? I said, well, that was your thing. He went, not even close. And then I had to go back and I had to completely unlearn.
Oh, man.
That for me is extremely difficult because when you're doing sleight of hand, a lot of it is muscle memory. And I had to go back, and what I had learned, I had to completely undo. And so I did not show that effect to anybody for 2 years.
Wow.
But
so
when I finally did it.
Where were you in your life at that point? Like, were you working? Did you have a job? And then you just took off and so you had this job, and then you saw this and you just said, I'm going to take time off of work and I'm going to invest this money that maybe you couldn't afford, or could you afford? And then I'm going to go, I'm breaking this down because these are so many of the common places where people stop because, they'll see it. A, they won't make that leap to contact the person. B, they'll find out I have to pay to contact that person, or go, see, I got to take time off work. I have a family, I have a kid. Here's all these reasons why I can't do it. And they just stop. Right. So,
married with 3 kids, working at a church.
Wow. See, and I love this because once again, it's such a valuable lesson, right? If you want it, you you don't stop. You don't get up against that wall and stop, right? You have to just find a way to push through. And your wife was down with this. She's like, "Yes, honey, I got this."
Yeah. She's like,
That's awesome.
do this.
Yeah.
And I think she saw the value in it. You have to, have people around you. There's got to be a support group.
Yeah.
For you. And I know some people that's their family. Others, they have close friends, significant others. So you have to have that support of those people to push through and do this, because it's not going to be easy. And I love the movie A League of Their Own. I've seen that movie or not, but the very end of that movie, when this Gina Davis, Tom Hanks are talking, and she's the best player in the women's baseball league, and she quits before the big game, and Tom Hanks looks at her and says, "You're quitting, just walking out like this." And she said, "It just got too hard." And I love the line that he says there, so significant. He says, it's supposed to be hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. The hard is what makes it great. Anything worth doing like this, it's going to be hard work, but the hard is what makes it great.
Yeah, so very true. And thank you for letting me go down that path with you when you went there, because it's just, being out there and doing it and knowing it. I look back at so many times over the years where I came up against that and just stopped, right? Because all the external things I led myself to believe. So now you went from speaking or performing at a Sunday school and your high school reunion, which I'm hoping was a moment of blazing triumph for you, by the way.
The high school reunion was pretty amazing. I got one of my former high school friends that she had known me literally since second grade and had no idea I did this stuff. And I pulled her up on the stage and I levitated her.
That's amazing. That's like every dream of everybody in high school.
Yeah, she just, she freaked out. It was great. I passed a hoop over her, the whole thing. Yeah. And the classmates jumped up on their feet and were just cheering. And it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I know there's a lot of things probably people in high school dream of doing to other people, like, I'm going to make you disappear and all that stuff, right? But you got to just pick that girl up and levitate. And she had no idea how you did it?
None.
That's amazing.
Right. At the end of the day, I said, now, if you just please don't tell anybody how I did that. And knowing, I said it on purpose.
She had no idea.
Yeah. And she looked and she went, "I have no clue. How did you do it? Tell me. Please tell me." I was like, "Well, if you don't know after that, I can't tell you. I'm sorry."
Yeah. No, you have to pass the test. You're not in the club if you don't know. If I levitate you and you don't know how, you're not in.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. So you went from the Sunday school to the high school reunion to speaking in front of 30,000 students in Texas a month or so ago. And then Mike Huckabee's show. When you're out there, you go to Israel. I saw you singing in Israel, which was amazing. By the way, that's quite the leap, and over a span of how many years. So talk now about some of the stages you're on now, and then we'll go back into a little bit more of the growth process and how you got and why you do it. Why do you feel compelled to do so?
Well, I think it was Mark Twain who said the two most important days of a person's life is the two most important things they discover is, let's say, the two most important things they know: when they were born, and then the reason why. That's the second thing. Okay. So when you begin to discover your purpose, that's what drives everything. Your why is paramount, because what goes back again, I can tie right back to the illusions. How to do an illusion is not difficult in most cases. There is hard work involved, but how to do it, just telling it, it's nothing. Why you do it is the most important thing. And whatever a person's doing, they're listening to this, they've got a passion for something. That is what's going to drive them, the why that's behind it. So that's what's driven me, because my why is I exist to help other people fulfill their God-given purpose. And there's a Forbes study that said 88% of people hate their job. 88%.
I believe it.
88%, that means they're doing something they completely despise. They're not fulfilling their life purpose. And so I see myself as a transformation agent. My job is to go in and help that person understand their purpose, and then help them see that even though in their mind it's impossible for me to get from here to here, it really is possible. They really can do it if they choose to step out and do it. There are certain life choices that we make that compound. And so going to those stages and talking to young people like we did, in far Texas and McAllen with, 30,000 people there. We're going to replicate some of those events next year with Nick Vujicic, who is just
amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Are you kidding me? This guy is so phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so getting to do some things with him again and listening to inspirational stories like that, those are things that change you. And so that's my goal. I don't want to spend my time necessarily just entertaining. I want to spend my time, the entertainment value, helping change people's lives. By the time I leave there, I do not want them to be the same as they were when they walked in the door.
Yeah. And that's can sound vague, right? But it's actually very specific, and it's not easy to do. There's a difference between people who have a story to tell and people who can tell the story and tell it in a way that makes a difference, that hits the mark. And
stories. And by the way, your story is extraordinary. I want to tell you that. I love your story. It is absolutely extraordinary. And being able to tell that story in such a way, that's why people have, this is the biography of so-and-so written by this person.
Right.
There has to be a compelling way for people to engage that story and go, oh, that's interesting. That's fascinating, because I'm a history nerd. I've watched things on biography that are boring. And then I've seen some that are great. But I've also seen people who they make movies of their lives, and the master storytellers go in and weave this movie and the details of the person's life in such a way that make it compelling.
Yes.
You want to know what's going to happen next. Those are great. Like, I think one of the fantastic movie makers, I think, is Clint Eastwood.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. He's great. Yeah.
He's great. And telling the American Sniper story, that's the way it was framed and told was just, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was good. And I'm like, I talked to Taya because she's a friend of mine, and she's like, she'll just casually be like, yeah, so I'm in the kitchen and Clint Eastwood there and Bradley Cooper's there and we're talking. I'm like, shut up, Taya. Just, I love you, but shut up. And I say that with love, but
yeah, oh, sure. Yeah. That's just great.
But, it's natural. And I think I was glad that he did that because, that's important. They're all important stories, but it was good to see how he handled that so respectfully and so delicately and still so powerfully. Gran Torino is another one I could watch 900 times. Just powerful, right? But I digress. Okay. So
you ever meet somebody you shouldn't mess with? That's just that look on his face.
Yes.
That he can only, that
right
scowl he gives, it says multitudes. It's so good.
It's classic. There will never be another Clint Eastwood ever. All right. I had these notes here. American Education Magic. So now you're on these stages for 30,000 people and you're on Mike Huckabee, but you also go into corporations.
I do.
And you talk about, somebody is listening and they're in the corporate world, either as a leader in the corporate world or, as an employee in the corporate, whatever level of management or whatever level they're at in the corporate world. Why do they want to hear from Ken Hartley?
Wow. Well, okay. I go in and I teach leadership and personal growth and communication. Those are the three big areas. And so leadership is obviously near and dear to my heart. Personal growth is fundamental, because if you don't grow personally, then nothing else matters. As you grow, so goes the rest of everything else. But communication is a huge one. In corporations, this is where I'm seeing a large deficit right now, because people don't realize, they think they're saying something and they don't realize people are not hearing them. Communication is never a one-way thing. Communication is always a loop. That means it has to come back to you in such a way where the person heard you, understood you, and responds in a way that says, yes, I got all that. I can look at your audience right now and I can say to your audience, I need Samayim, or I can say, which is Arabic and Hebrew, or I can say, botella de agua, por favor, which probably more people got. Or I can say, can I please have a bottle of water in English, which is what all of those were. I had a friend of mine, who's a pastor friend. We're in Nicaragua together. And there's a convenience store there, and the way the culture's set up, the person's house is also the convenience store. And they realize my friend is the pastor and leader of this group of about 50 people, and there's such a culture of honor that they ask him to come back behind the counter and into their little courtyard with the fountain. It was beautiful back there, and it was hot there. They pulled up a lazy boy chair outside and then put a fan on him and gave him a Diet Coke, and just wanted to honor him. And so he looks at the lady and says, your house is beautiful. And the lady looks back at him and goes, because she doesn't speak any English at all.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he looks at her and goes, you, house, beautiful. And I looked at him and I went, hey, man, say it slower. She's going to get it the next time, buddy. And I finally looked at her and I said, su casa está muy bonita. And she went, oh, gracias, gracias. Didn't matter how slowly he said it, how loudly he said it. If you're not speaking the same language, it doesn't matter. In corporations, they're speaking 2 different languages, sometimes 3 and 4. And I'm a student of the DISC model of human behavior. And every one of those temperaments, DISC, speak a completely different language. And if you don't speak that language with your people, you're going to have a huge attrition rate. Your productivity is going to bottom out because the people don't understand each other. And then if your people begin to understand the language of DISC, they're not only going to understand themselves and the people they work with, they're going to understand the clients as well, which all of that translates into raised productivity. So that's what I do in corporations.
That's huge, and I think maybe if more corporations or more companies did that. I don't have experience personally in the corporate world. I have worked, for smaller, I've worked for the county government. So, that's a whole, we'll just leave that there, but,
come on, talk about it. Come on.
Yeah. And then, like smaller places, and I've managed it. And I know, like, even on the level that I worked at, and I have friends that work for corporates or in school districts or whatever. And it's like, everybody's screaming a different thing. Everybody's after a different goal. And they don't realize that, like, everybody's goal is supposed to be the same, but you have to, navigate those waters carefully. And I think that's probably a gift. I mean, think a company that is just up against a wall and wondering why. And then maybe you come in and you just kind of, maybe it sounds so simple in hindsight, like, oh, I get, but sometimes you need the simple. It's so clouded and blocked by all these complications, and you just can't see it. And you need somebody to kind of blow that fresh air in and open it up and kind of expose that path that was there the whole time, but they just didn't understand how to find it. So
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
In the DISC, you have, the D, which is the decisive decision maker, dominant person. I call them more driven than I do dominant. Dominant sounds like, it's a bad thing, but driven is really who they more are. The I personality is the inspiring one. There's the life of the party, the fun one everybody loves and wants to be around. The S personality is truly the one everybody loves. They're supportive. They have a great servant heart. They want peace on the borders. Why can't we all just get along together? Why is there all this fighting? And then the C personality is the detailed person that said, man, I have to fix everything everybody screws up because they don't do details and they don't understand how things work. But the truth is, those corporations need every one of those people to work properly. You just have to make sure those people are in their proper place in the organization, which is what ends up messing things up, is when you have, it's what Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, said, you have the right person on the right bus, but they're in the wrong seat. That has to be fixed.
All right. Speaking of books, you have one that you have just released.
Yes.
Let's hear it.
I have a copy right here.
There it is.
There it is.
Illusions. I know Mike Huckabee said that is a great book and it's a fun book. And so what led you to write it? What are some concepts in it?
Leadership Illusions is 21 things people believe about leadership that are not true. The 21 things I will tell you is a nod to my mentor in leadership, who is Dr. John Maxwell, who wrote the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Now, these are not the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. They're different from that. I want to make that clear. But the book itself, I realized there were a lot of things people believed about leadership that are not true. And this, again, in corporate, this is in nearly every organization. There are certain things they believe and go, well, I think this, and it's just simply not true. One of them is, well, I have a title, therefore I'm a leader. They think people are going to respect the fact that they have CEO, COO, president, executive, whatever behind their name, and nobody respects that at all. Nobody does. Especially the day and age that we're living in right now. I remember growing up that even after the age of Richard Nixon, that there was still somewhat of a fundamental respect for the office of president.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican.
Yeah.
It's just not there anymore. People don't respect titles. What people do respect is true leadership, and true leadership is not title. True leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what leadership is. So if a person operates from influence, they can be at the top of the organization, in the middle, or they can be at the very bottom. And we've seen this play out. There's somebody that has a position, a title, but when something happens, other people will go to this person in the organization and go, what do you think about this? That's because they have influence. They are leading from their position. Like I said, my mentor, Dr. Maxwell, wrote a book called The 360-Degree Leader, which is leading from wherever you are. And he said he almost titled that book, Follow Me, I'm Right Behind You, which I thought was brilliant.
That's a brilliant title. Yeah.
Great title. But that's a big illusion that you have to have a position. Well, people say all the time, I'm not really a leader. Yes, you are. You are a leader because you influence people every single day of your life. Almost everybody has somebody they influence, and that is the essence of leadership. So that's one example of an illusion.
Very cool. Where can people get that book?
They can get it at leadershipillusions.com.
Excellent. And I'm going to throw this in before we get to the last couple questions that if you're listening to this and you're inspired to leave a review or a comment on it, tag it, take a screenshot and send it to support@American Snippets. I will personally reach back out to the first 10 people who do that. Order this book from Ken and send it right to you as our way of thanking you for your support and passing it on, spreading the message of our guests who we wouldn't take the time to feature people if we didn't strongly believe in them and their impact and all this. So we like to back that up with action and spread that impact too. So
if you will give me the names of those people, I will gladly sign the book to them as well.
Perfect. Thanks, man. All right. So let's go a little bit forward into the questions that I really also love asking. We'll start with just a plain old fun one first. If there's somebody in this world that I could deliver to your house in the next hour and you could spend the rest of the day hitting up and hang out with someone you've never met, who would that be?
Somebody that I've never met.
Yeah. That's always the hard part.
Yes. And somebody that's alive, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. Let me think that I have never.
Yeah.
Because I've met a lot of people. So,
I know.
Let me think. Somebody I would really, really love to meet would be Anthony Robbins. I've never met him. And so I'd like to spend, and I probably would come out of there with my hair on fire. But I would love to meet him, and that would be because I think he's so good at taking people to another level. Yeah,
I'd say so. See, that's a fun question to ask and it gets people thinking, right? And
you really did. I didn't expect that. That's great.
I know. And on occasion, I'm like, I'll know someone who knows someone who knows someone, and I can whatever. But it's just fun. And I always file that away. Huh? Yeah. All right, Clint. I just file it away and bring it back out when I need it. Okay. So what we do here and why we do it relates back to a little bit of a blog post I saw you did, and I loved it. Like how you you just committed to not watch the news anymore when you realized the negative impact it was having on you. I was like, I could have written that myself because it is exactly what realization I came to when I realized I was like heading up and then I was heading back down. I didn't know why. And it was all that I was just absorbing all the things. And for me, it made me feel like our family sacrifice was just pointless because nobody was using any of these opportunities and all that. So I get that. Right. And so part of what we do now is to build up and reinforce the fact that the American dream is still very much alive, very unique to everybody, has their own version of it, which is the key point. And it's accessible for anybody. So I like to ask, like, what is your own version, your own definition of the American dream?
The American dream that I still very much believe in today is the ability to accomplish your dreams your purpose in life, have the ability to do it, and give yourself the freedom to do that. I think freedom exists as Americans to give us the ability to do our own thing. There's a mentality of the government exists to give you something. I'm a believer that the government exists to provide you the freedom to do it yourself. And you have that. I think America is the greatest country in the world, and I know that's arrogant from some people maybe outside watching this to say, but I believe it with all my heart. And I don't see other people climbing walls to get into other countries, but they do that here in America because of the opportunity that's here. For anybody that's willing to work hard, it doesn't matter race, religion, creed, color, it doesn't matter, any of that. You can accomplish it, and you can do it if you're willing to pay the price to do it. And that, to me, is the American dream.
Awesome. All right. Remind us all again where to go to ping you, to talk about you coming to speak at an event or getting some of your leadership lessons. You have a lot of different services that you offer. So where can everybody find out about that?
That is at Hartley, Hartley, leadership.com, hartleyleadership.com. You can contact me there. My email is ken@hartleyleadership.com. That comes directly to me. And I would love to come to your event. I'd love to come to your organization, add value. I'm doing a lot of that right now. Things are flying, and it's a lot of fun, but it never gets tiring. That is something that energizes me. I enjoy it. I never get tired of meeting people and adding value to their life. And the greatest thing is when I see somebody say, "Hey, Ken, I have now stepped into a new role." And this has happened actually in the last 3 weeks. I've had 2 different people who have said, "I was in this role and I've just gotten a promotion, or I just interviewed and I just am now doing this. And that's a result of me reading this or going through a class with you or talking with you." And that never gets old. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's huge. And what a great reward. That kind of gives you the fire to keep going. Ken, thank you so much, really, for just being so much fun and for taking the time to sit down, to trust us with your story and to reach out to our community. We love all of it. So thanks.
I am thrilled and honored to be here with you. And I look forward to being on stage with you again because you're awesome.
Yeah. Thank you very much.